Welcome to the XY Advisor podcast. To join a global community of financial advisors sharing and learning with one another to drive the positive evolution of financial advice, head to xyadvisor.com. This podcast is brought to you in partnership with Hub24. Hub24 make a difference in the lives of advisors by connecting you to innovative solutions that create opportunities with market-leading managed portfolios and customer service excellence. Want to know more? Visit hub24.com.au. G'day, how's it going? What do you know? Striker Like Clayton here from XY, chatting with Julia, former financial planner, now getting involved in the money coaching side of the business, has a big deal coming up with one of the big four and walking their staff through money, which I think is really interesting. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Clay. It's really good to be here. I'm so excited.
The thing that so we had a chance to chat before the podcast started, and you were recommended actually to me to reach out through someone in the industry, and I've seen the stuff that you talk about before in the past. So I did your test. You've got a test, and then you get your personality in money, and I came across this, I think, for the first time like a fair few years ago. But I haven't seen it again, and I don't think anything sort of came of the person who originally walked me through it. So it's really interesting now to see you putting a fair bit of effort in, because that test that I did, I'd imagine probably took a little while to do, like to set up in itself.
Yeah, definitely. I actually, it was created by someone in the States, and I bought a license to do that. So, and I of course had within that licensing, that licensing kind of contract, I could tweak it and make it my own and brand it however I wanted to brand it. And so I did change it quite a bit, and I just sort of leveled it up a bit, because sometimes the American market gets a bit, it's very commercialized, and I tried to make it a bit more sexy and attractive, and so people would actually take note of it, because usually when you mention money, people's eyes glaze over and they just don't want to go there because they've got so many bad memories.
Yes.
So I want to make money something that people actually enjoy looking after. Yeah. And my theory is that money is like a person, and if you can turn money into your best friend or even your lover, like amazing things can happen.
Yeah, it's a really interesting personifying money as a person. I think is really, it's an interesting way to go about it. And I'm always, I always love hearing from people who have your kind of background, right? Which is super technical, super traditional, numbers based, speaking to people about their financial situation, and then pursuing a different view of money, which is the emotional engagement side of money. And I've said this on a million podcasts, but only 50% of the population engage with money in a rational in means, and then the other half engage on an emotional means. And of course, it's a spectrum, and there's bits and pieces on both sides. But it's always been interesting to me that we haven't seen a larger amount of people that are helping others engage with money in an emotional way. And the fact that you've taken this path and you've, as you said, improved upon, I guess, that structure that I had seen earlier, but it does seem a lot more thorough. And then you're presenting, and then in the crowd so happens to be, head of financial wellness at one of these big four, and they say, hey, the way that you speak about money, you can actually come talk to people whose life is to work with money.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive, and kind of goes to show how much of a need there is in the market for something like this.
Yeah, definitely. And I think money is very emotional, and we all know it's the same, say, with like doctors, their children are always sick, and builders' houses are never finished. It's the same with financial advisors. Usually they put themselves last because they do it all day long and they don't want to do it for themselves. And it's also, it's easier to give advice for people when there's no emotions attached. Yeah. You can just, dish it out quite literally academically and do what's right for them. But it's the same as dieting, everything. We all know what we should be doing, and it's not hard to get a hold of the right information of what you should be doing. But to actually transfer that money into that particular investment, it takes a lot for some people because there's a lot of trust involved. And so the interesting thing about what I do, and this is, it actually really impressed myself, and which is why I got into this, was because once I started looking into this, I realized that my family members, and I could relate to them more because I understood where they were coming from. Because it gets, like, say my sister, she is a romantic type. So she loves to spend. She has no house. She earns very good money, but she just loves to spend on lifestyle. And I used to judge her for that. And then once she took my money personality quiz, I realized that her gift is actually being able to put money to good use and to get good experience out of it, and to she always had lots of more money coming in, and she just totally trusted that and enjoyed her life. Whereas I am the opposite, because I am an accumulator, and my personality is that I like to hoard my money and not spend it, and I don't feel comfortable unless I've got a certain amount sitting in cash in the bank, let alone invested. And so she could then understand me a bit better, and I realized that I need a little bit of her type of money personality, and she needs a little bit of mine, because we all need a bit of balance.
Yeah.
And I can really appreciate that, because once I did start spending money on experiences and things that didn't necessarily get me a return, it opened up my creativity, and all of a sudden that's when you get ideas to make more money, So it's that kind of stuff. And we can all do with a bit more balance.
Oh, absolutely. And if you think about it in terms of a married couple, or just a couple in general who get financial advice together, how rare is it for both of them to walk in and to engage with money in the exact same terms? It's almost impossible, right?
Yeah.
And so the way that traditionally we've dealt with that issue is perhaps you just work with one member of the family. That is one way of dealing with it. The other person's too bored or just doesn't care, doesn't relate, doesn't engage. So that's been potentially one way to deal with it. The other way to deal with it is one person sits there quite comfortable and the other person sits there quite concerned, and they have very different risk profiles, but it doesn't really go too much further than that. There's certainly typically never an exploration into how, or I should say, the specific differences between engaging with money there are between the couple. And so I think even for practicing advisors, if there was a way to help each member of the relationship understand the other person better and their relationship with money, that would be such a great practice to go through, even in informal, written, financial planning.
Yeah, I think imagine if, as a financial advisor, you could go into a meeting with a client that you're meeting for the first time and already have this information on what their emotional attachment is to money and how they relate to money, whether they're easy come, easy go, whether they're super anxious, whether they like to, there's another archetype called celebrity, and they, of course, love to just throw money to everybody and make sure that and shout everybody and make sure they have the best of everything, whether they can afford it or not. There's the nurturer who loves to give. And if you can talk to that side of that person and say to them, if you invest your money the right way and put yourself first rather than giving all the time, you will then fill up your cup and you will be able to give more in the long term to everybody else, and you'll be able to provide for your children because you'll have that solid foundation. And a lot of people haven't looked at money from that frame before, and they just they literally haven't seen it that way. And it seems obvious to those of us who are accumulators, who is really, a lot of accountants and financial advisors would naturally be accumulators because they love to save and manage money in complicated transactions. But the majority of the population is not. And to them, that is frightening because they just don't understand it. So
totally,
that fear preys on uncertainty and not understanding things. So if you can eliminate that fear by talking in their language, that really helps.
Absolutely. Do you, I guess, going into a conversation with a client, whether they're a new client or whether they're an established client, I guess, is understanding which persona they are going into that meeting, does that play a role in how you approach handling that client?
Oh, most definitely. Because straight away you can identify what their strengths and challenges are in terms of money. And it's just, it helps you to phrase things a certain way so that they can see the positive side in saving and investing. Yeah, there's a lot to it. And yeah, I think money is just so emotional,
totally.
I don't know why we've left it this long to talk about it.
Yeah, totally.
It's not just academic.
Yeah,
it's
highly emotional.
50% emotional. I always say it's 80% emotional and only 20% mechanics because. It's not hard to Google on the internet what you're supposed to do to invest. Like you basically just spend less than you earn and, invest it in something that is secure and diversified. It's not hard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of the interesting things I think with your career, with where it is now, is your focus on the US.
Yeah.
That to me, so for any Aussie that's been to America, we're almost like a zoo. They come out, they're like, oh my God, your accent, where is it from? And it's, you're kind of a little bit taken back. He's just Australia, like it's nothing too exotic. But they do genuinely sort of consider it interesting. And so I've always thought, when an advisor, an Aussie-based, let's just say money expert, attempts to take on the US, I think that there would be a kind of a competitive advantage. And so walk us through, why did you make the decision to sort of focus on the US and how that's gone so far? And I'm super interested in it.
Yeah, well, the number one reason, of course, is it's a massive market. So like Australia is so small. Yes. And when I first started thinking about becoming an entrepreneur and starting my own business, I started taking some courses, digital courses in the States, and joined a lot of mastermind groups for women starting business over there. And then it's very, very quickly, as soon as I started talking on those groups about what I was doing, people just wanted to get more information straight away. So I'm talking with people in the UK, in Europe. I have people in the Netherlands and Germany and Canada. They're all, it's universal. It doesn't matter where you live. The emotional side of money is the same for everyone. It's not about culture. It is just an archetype. And an archetype is based on your beliefs and your habits and the money stories that go through your head. And everybody has this, in my research, all women have the same desire, and that is to ensure money is always there for them. They have this massive fear that they're going to run out of money one day, especially if they get divorced and don't have a partner, because women's careers are very different to men. Like we don't have that same consistency in our careers and superannuation. There's a massive gap there. And so we may be earning good money right now, but they're very concerned about the future. And women are just wired differently. Money represents safety to us, whereas for men, it's more about it's more about competition and power and showing their strength. But for women, it's just safety. That's all it is. And as long as they know they always have enough and that they can provide for their family, that to them is their greatest desire.
It makes sense. So undoubtedly with your business model, it's tailored towards women. Do you have any married couples? So the men get involved as well?
I had one just a couple of weeks ago, actually, and he was very hesitant. I find that women are just more open to emotions and talking about it, which, of course, is just how, again, we're wired. We love to chat, and women just talk about things more. It's what we do. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just helps us. We love to research everything. We love to just communicate. And I think the guys aren't necessarily as open to it. They come because their partner brings them. Yeah. Once they start looking into it, they kind of go, oh, yeah, right. And you plant that seed, and it might take a while, like it might be a few weeks later that they kind of have some epiphany or something. But it's just a bit different. How did you go with yours? We haven't talked about that yet.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I can't remember the exact archetypes that it was, but I mean, it largely made sense.
Maverick, was it?
The top one, because there's obviously you get 3 of them, right?
There's 8 altogether, but the top 3 are the most important. So your top one, you had a really high score for that, and the second place was like a much lower score. So you're very strong in the Maverick, and that makes sense with what you're doing. Because you're making income in an alternative way. So the Maverick is all about, they're very creative and they don't like to do things the same way as everybody else.
That would definitely be, if my wife was here, she'd say absolutely. But I guess one of the things that was quite cool about this was the idea of the rebel with the cause. I wouldn't exactly call myself a rebel, but I definitely like the concept of doing things for a good reason. That to me. So I'm happy to create, a little bit of tension. You could say that disruption, I believe, is the word in startup land. I'm happy to pursue that in if the goal is for a good outcome in the world and certainly at the moment in financial advice. And so, I definitely resonated with that, and how that relates to, I guess, my long-term career. I don't know. What does a Maverick do?
I think I'm a Maverick as well. Like, not as strong as you in that, but I have the same top 3 archetypes, but in a different order. Right. So, they're very clever. They're very flamboyant and charismatic. They're really good at structuring deals with financial complexity and paying attention to detail, and just making decisions on taking risks. Like, I'm not talking about gambling risks. I'm talking about business risks. They're willing to do things differently and disrupt, like you say. But their challenges can be more about with financial security sometimes, because they tend to overlook the steady but boring income streams, and just want to go on the roller coaster kind of thing, because they're willing to just do whatever it takes to follow their dreams, which is a good thing. Like, none of them are bad or good. Like, it's no one is better than the other. It's just about finding a bit of balance.
Yeah, no, I fully agree to that. And funnily enough, like, as I've, I guess, become a little bit more stable in even this career, I've been working full time in XY now for just over 12 months, which is, pretty, considering the company's been around for quite a while. It's to be here for a while now, and for it to be heading in such a good direction, it's great. And like I'm married with a kid now, so I'm actually chatting to a couple of my mates at the moment to say, hey, you can really help with the longevity and the stability side of things with our family. And so, I guess I'm trying to figure out how to do the balance in my little microcosm as well in our little family. And just if someone, because it takes a long time to realize things about yourself. So I can imagine when people are getting this information and it's bringing to light some ideas that they maybe hadn't self-examined previously, then it's going to help ultimately achieve a good outcome. What kind of outcomes are you looking to achieve when you do speak to your clients?
Okay, so I'm just about to launch my first package program, which would be an 8-week course, and 6 of those 8 weeks would be on money mindset, and so letting go of limiting beliefs and opening your mind to new ways to make money that are easier, and just come, because it's all about making money easy. It doesn't need to be hard. The only person stopping us from earning more is ourselves and the stories we tell ourselves, and not going out there into the marketplace and marketing ourselves because we've got this fear of being seen or something. It's not real. It's just a story. So I do that. And then the last couple of weeks, once they're ready to receive it, then I help them set up their finances, structure everything the right way, and automate their finances and their savings and investing, so that they can start building their own little stash of cash, I suppose, and have those guardrails in place so that they don't have the capacity to self-sabotage on their money goals, because it's like that whole dinner plate theory. The bigger the plate that you eat off, the more you eat.
Yes.
So it's the same as that, and it's just that siloing. But you know what? In all my research, that is the most important thing I think that everyone needs to do, and that's what I wanted to get out there, and that's why I started this business. But in my research, it came to me very clearly that people are just not interested in learning about that. They know they have to do it, but they don't want to do it because there's so much guilt, because they have to look at everything they've done wrong in the past, and there's so much shame and guilt, and they just don't want to go there. They just want to stick their head in the sand. So I'm focusing on the money mindset, and then once their mind is open, then I will teach them what they need to know to set up their finances. So my goal is to be the intermediary between somebody who's just starting out, learning how to manage their own finances, and the financial plan advisor. So I'm kind of like the go-between to help them to get in a position so that they're ready to see the financial advisor, because they have the income streams now, they understand how the market works, they've been financially educated, and then by the time they get to see their financial advisor, they know what their goals are, which is the biggest thing, because most people have no idea what their financial goals are or why they need meaning, because there's no point just picking a number unless it means something to you. Otherwise, it becomes just a to-do list and you just don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember Ryan Holiday saying once, in the absence of a plan, the default answer is always more.
Yeah.
And so understanding why we want to achieve a certain thing is a huge element. And that emotional engagement can be then utilized to change behavior and achieve the goals that otherwise people are not interested in achieving. And when you take a client for the first time and dive into their situation, it is a very revealing moment for them. And so I guess the way that you're approaching it is to make that transition from not looking at your financial situation to looking at your financial situation in the most comfortable way possible and just removing any hurdles. Because again, traditional financial planning is, hey, fill out this fact find. Now I know everything about you. Bam, let's get straight into advice. And
it's just shaming. People just feel shamed.
Yeah.
They just go, oh my God, my finances are so bad, because that's why they're going to see you. And you're just emphasizing that and making them feel vulnerable and weak. And when you think about it, it's just shocking. Like, why would anyone want to be a financial advisor? Like, it's just, unless they've already been really good with their money and they've got like, $1 million to invest and go, look how good I am. And then they're really good at doing those forms because they're really proud.
Yes.
But there's a real gap. There's a whole lot of Australians, like, what is it? Like 70% of Australians, other than their super, have never, is that the number? I can't remember what the details are, but it's massive, this number. And the reason is they all just think that they've just been shamed because they don't understand how money works. They don't want to ask about it because they don't want to feel bad. And it's, going back to dieting and exercising again, people don't want to feel bad. So they don't want somebody to say, oh my God, you're so overweight, you so need to exercise. Thank God you came. Like, that's the last thing they want to hear.
That's such a good point. Do you do any small groups of people to be able to gamify it and sort of set people up into mastermind groups or anything like that, whether they can talk about what they're learning with you and then compare results? I find that peer-to-peer learning is really helpful.
Yeah, well, that's what's going to be happening in my package. We'll have a closed Facebook group in there as well, and I'll be present in there, and we can all like share our ahas and our stories, and just, it's a safe place, people not to be judged. Definitely. But I do workshops at the moment. I haven't done online workshops yet. I've just been holding them in person. But I only just started this business this year, so it's still very new. But I will be doing that once this package is launched. And that's the next step, is to do group coaching online. But I don't believe that we should jump into group coaching until we have really mastered the one-on-one first.
Yep.
I think there's just still so much to learn, and I want to make sure eventually I'm going to have a digital product for people to download and just teach themselves, or they can do a live version with me.
Awesome. The fact that this type of service is really, I guess, because I had a chat with Matt Hearn just recently on another podcast, and I'd say like similar concept, but he's coming at it from I guess the other side of the coin in terms of it being a very rational process, solving, say, cash flow up front, because it is such an important thing. Yeah. And the concept of this type of service, I actually almost got into it a few years ago. I wrote a book, Fund Your Ideal Lifestyle, and I was toying with the idea of doing something like this, but in the end, I decided to go down the route of still working with financial planners and XY. But it goes without a doubt, it's an extremely needed service. I'm also interested to see if it ends up looping back around into financial planning. That's kind of the journey that I see this taking. I think financial planning's sort of in a bit of a moment of flux at the moment, where you've got sort of ASIC and the regulators are bringing in a bunch of restraints, I guess you could say, with people getting back into the industry if they've taken any time off. I'm in that boat. You're in that boat. For people that are entering the industry for the first time in terms of a professional year and needing someone to sort of fund that professional year. I think there's a bunch of restraints. And then on the flip side, they're also saying, well, the price of advice is too expensive. We should be looking at scaled advice. And so I go, okay, like to my mind, there's a schism that's happening in financial planning, and however it lands, I'm not sure, but you've got huge companies looking to purchase AMP, because they're obviously bullish about financial services in Australia over the long term. And so I can see this. We might go back to the days of the AMP agent, low cost, tech delivered, maybe a really restrained compliance regime. Yeah, that kind of thing. And then on the other side, I think we're going to see, that full service, quote unquote, independent, although you can't use that word anymore, boutique. Financial planning. Yes, let's go with boutique. And then I can see out of all of that, a place for money coaching to fit in, like whether it becomes licensed or not, it's going to exist. But I can see this skill set that more and more currently former financial planners, but undoubtedly will end up as still practicing financial planners. They're going to continue with this way of thinking and bring this into financial advice. I know AMP a little while ago attempted to build a business model for people so they would have someone like you, highly spoke around this type of stuff, and then someone who was super rational on the other side and who just did, the forms and things like that. And so almost that traditional financial planning and this money coaching in the same office. I haven't seen that happen yet, but I just think it's a matter of time, because what you're doing is super valuable. It's only a matter of time before it gets looped into traditional financial planning.
Well, anyone who wants to contact me is welcome. I'm open. Definitely, I think that's a great thing. It's the same with medicine, and looking into alternative health and metaphysics and all that kind of stuff, the power of the mind. Like, it's amazing. Like, the placebo effect is huge. There's so much research around that. But yet doctors still don't take it into consideration. They account for it in their research whenever they eliminate it. Because it's so powerful. But they just won't, they constantly just want to apply medication and without solving the problem underneath. And this is the same thing. We're solving the money problem, the money story that is imprinted from the ages of like 2 to 7, right? This is when our brains are like sponges, and we just imprint whatever is going on around us. Whether your parents can say all they want about managing money in the right way, but we imprint from their vibration and the feelings that they have about money, and you can't hide that. So if you thought that money was evil or greedy, or that it was wrong to want too much of it, you pass that on to your children, whether you mean to or not. And these are the money stories that I work with my clients to let go of and to replace them with something more positive. And there's always a new money story, right? So each level you get to, so even the billionaires out there in the world, they still have money stories, and they're still working on their money stories and for that kind of stuff. I mean, if you can remove the barriers for people to engage with their own financial situation in a healthy manner, you're going to improve the outcomes that you get with that client. It goes without saying. A huge barrier is mental with this sort of stuff. And it's a huge reason why people get financial planning in the first place, right? They're saying, actually, I do want to outsource this. But as a part of the outsourcing, if you can help your client improve in their relationship with money, their understanding of money, their education around money, from all sides of the spectrum, you're just doing your job better as a financial planner, because you're not only helping them with the outcomes, but you're helping them to achieve better outcomes as well over the long term. And you're making them feel good along the way. And that's so important, to make your clients feel like they're in charge, and feel like they're, because a lot of people, especially women, there's a majority of financial advisors out there are males. And, that we like to chat, as I said, and it's just a different style, and it doesn't always resonate with the female clients. So if you can make people feel like they are doing something super positive, and give them and tie it to something that is emotional for them, an anchor, a North Star, if you like. That is so important, because otherwise people don't care and they just put it off and they just want someone else to deal with it. And they don't get the best result, because you can only help them. It can only really help somebody who wants to be helped.
Yes.
And this goes back to that whole thing you were saying, how some other types of money coaches, people come to them because they want to sort out their money, but they have to already want to sort out their money. Most people aren't there yet. They don't even want to go there. They've got their head in the sand. So I'm coming at it from the step before that even, and just saying, you know, wouldn't it be nice if money wasn't so stressful, and I can help you make sure it's not as stressful as it's been in the past. And then once the gateway's opened, then you can introduce the coaching and the and set up the siloing of an automation of their finances. And then once they have that nest egg, then they're at a stage where they can go to a financial advisor, and it's more worthwhile for them then to see a financial advisor, because it is expensive. And, you know, I think that there's just a real gap in the market, and that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, no, totally. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, you've got like 15 to 20% of the market currently getting financial planning. So the size of the unmet market is insanely large, and anyone doing anything to attempt to, I would say, open that other huge portion of the market to receiving financial planning is brilliant to my mind. Yeah. So what's the plans? Like, you know, we're getting close to the end of the year, the 2020, I believe, otherwise known as the best year on record. I've heard people begin calling it, obviously, and being facetious. So we're getting to the end of 2020. You've got 2021 coming up. You've got this big gig coming up in March, right? Yeah. What does next year look like for you?
I'm writing a book. My aim was to, I have started the writing, but my aim was to have an official coach locked in for that, and hopefully a publisher by the end of the year, but that's getting a bit close now. So it's probably going to happen next year.
Yes.
It will happen next year. I'm a positive mindset. Just focusing on getting my system down pat, so that I can put it together in a digital package format. Yeah. So that then it's super scalable and can be applied to anyone, anywhere in the world. That is my goal. Yeah.
Awesome. No, look, I fully support it. I think it's great. What would be really interesting is if, a handful of years down the track, you've got this digital engagement tool for all over the world, and then imagine if you came back to financial planning as well. That would be
yes. Well, that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to start my own financial planning firm for women, very boutique style, very low cost as well, because I just think people are put off by how much it costs. And I was going to focus on divorce. Because, I think we discussed this earlier, Clay. I don't think it was in the interview though, but women generally tend to come into their wealth through trauma. So whether it's their spouse dying because we outlive our spouses, or from inheritance, or from a couple of divorces, they're all like quite negative things, and that doesn't help with the whole emotional side of money, because if you receive money that way, it's kind of toxic. And it's hard enough to just look after money that you receive in a good way, let alone through a bad way. So I really wanted to help women to be able to get in the right headspace to manage their own money, because when you're under stress, you just can't think straight. Your IQ actually drops by 50%. You cannot make decisions properly. Totally. So that's it. You're in no condition to be setting up your finances and putting, with this settlement money. You need somebody to help you and to guide you. Yeah. So I really wanted to be one of those people. So yeah, I've also set up, as I said, a foundation to help women after domestic violence and just nasty divorces, to help them to get through their divorce and to help them to negotiate their settlement and to feel, understand what they need for the future, so that that stress lowers and they can think straight, because they know how much they need to live the lifestyle that they've been accustomed to, and that, you know, that eliminates all the fear, because there's so much fear about them not feeling safe because they don't have money. And this is women with, like, you know, millions of dollars in settlement money. They're worried about their lifestyle and how they're going to maintain that. That's the only life they've known. It's really frightening. It sounds bad when you say that about people with a couple of $1 million in their bank, but like, it doesn't matter whether it's a little amount or a big amount. It's just all relative to their lifestyle. Yeah, no,
it's just, I've never heard someone articulate it like that before, but yeah, I can definitely imagine if that was a reoccurring theme in any demographic, that they were coming into money through negative events. Yeah. Then they're kind of, if there's some sort of trend there, then picking up on that and being able to help that demographic, I mean, makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned someone could be in a great position, but they think they're in a bad position. I mean, yeah, like that's every financial planner has seen that. And then there's people that are in horrible positions that they think they're fine. So that's the whole piece of helping someone get their head around exactly where they are, exactly where they want to go, and exactly how to get there. I mean, that's financial planning, isn't it? And
definitely. And that's a beautiful thing. Like when you get to sit down with a client and show them those projections, that just the relief on their face of just going, oh yeah, like I'm going to be totally fine. And that changes everything. And then you can just sail through life because you're not stressed out about it all the time. There's not that nagging thought in the back of your head. What about 10 years from now? Am I going to be okay? Is my son going to be okay? Or my daughter? How am I going to make sure they get through? And that, it takes up so much energy, worry. And if we can eliminate that worry, and then they can focus that energy on something positive, like finding new income streams, finding a way to make money with purpose that really feels empowering to them. I really do believe that everybody has a gift that they can monetize, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's just a transfer of energy between people. That's
awesome. No, I'm always super interested in this approach towards helping people with money. The global sort of outlook that you have on it, the emotional engagement angle. I think it's a huge journey ahead, and you've already done, well, and you've barely even started. It's fantastic. You've got March ahead of you. I think 2021 is going to be an awesome year for you and what you want to achieve. So congrats on what you've already done so far.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited. I've got a really good feeling about this, and I just follow my intuition, and which I really believe everyone should do. So yeah, let me know if you wanted me to teach you more about that. I'm sure you already have that though, being a maverick. You would have that little inner guidance come naturally.
Yes, it's I grew up in a really small town without my dad, and so I sort of had to come up with, personifying, I guess, myself 5 years in the future, creating that bit of a guide. So, even though I don't want to make the hard decisions, I kind of look at it like, well, yourself in 5 years will really appreciate it if you do this thing. And so I've kind of been able to sort of organize it in my mind like that, which is, it's a little bit interesting, but we've all got our own strategies. Look, thank you so much for coming on, discussing this. I'm always super excited to get these kind of pieces of information out to as many advisors as possible. If there's anyone that wants to reach out, how would they go about doing that?
My website is loveluckwealth.com. So all of my contact details are on there. And if you go to the resources page, which is very easy to find once you go to the landing page, you'll be able to take that money personality quiz for free. And yeah, I think and there's a contact form there. All my information is there. So it's loveluckwealth.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on and sharing.
Thanks, Clay. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. And I love what you do. So keep going.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.